from the Post-Millennial. Biden moves to give mass amnesty to paroled illegal immigrants married to U.S. citizens. The plan the White House has put forward would give work permits, deportation protections, and other privileges to immigrants who are married to U.S. citizens and have been paroled in the U.S. Okay, look, we get it. Okay, they are flooding this country intentionally. Joe Biden's pretending like he's trying to stop it, but he's not. And it's because the average person is stupid. That's unfortunate. Or I should say the average person is average, but half the country is stupider than that. And so Joe Biden says, "Yo, I'm trying to come on, man, we'll secure the border." And then people are just like, "Well, Joe Biden's trying to secure the border," and he's not. His executive order basically said, "We will allow 1.5 million illegal immigrants to illegally enter the country." That's what his order was. Right now, a single illegal immigrant walking across the border is a crime.
Yeah,
committed a crime. You get caught. You get arrested. You go home. Joe Biden's like, look at this 5 million. We're gonna cut that number down to 1.5. It's basically the trick.
Yeah.
Right. It's like he's gotten everyone convinced that going down to 1.5 million illegal immigrants is a good thing. He allows the mass invasion at the southern border that even Sharpton and other Democrats have called an invasion. Then once it gets so bad, he pushes it back only a little bit and says, "See, look how good I've done."
It's crazy.
People fall for it.
He's like, I can't secure this country's border. In fact, I refuse to. But you should vote for me again because I'll only let 1.5 million people come in. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And he is claiming that this is how he's going to fix this problem.
But he's saying he secured it. He's going, "With my executive order, we've cut that number down by 70 or 80% after we increased it by 500.
Yeah, exactly. It's still an invasion, and it's all because of. I don't think it's voting. Everyone, I think that's a common talking point. This is so that they'll vote for him? I don't think it's for that. I think it's ultimately just about demographics for the next census. I mean, you look at 2000, 2010, 2020. What's losing electoral votes are all the blue states, right? California, New York has lost, I think, 6. Pennsylvania has lost, and those are blue strongholds. And what's gaining is Florida, Texas, Tennessee, all the red states. And so to change that, I mean, Chicago, Illinois is not going to be as powerful. New York isn't as powerful anymore. New York used to be second. Now I think New York is third behind Florida. California lost in the last election. So if you can bolster, because illegals do count in the census, if by 2030, California's got 5 more people and Illinois has 6 million more people and New York has 3 million more, well, now they get their electoral votes back and they have to take them from somewhere. They'll take them from Wyoming. They'll take them from one from Colorado. They'll take one, et cetera, and now the blue states are powerful again.
It's crazy because they wouldn't let them ask about citizenship on the census.
You're not allowed to. Yeah, illegals count towards the census, which is absurd.
It's crazy.
So back to Ian's point from the previous segment about the age of barbarism. We're experiencing similar. I don't know how similar because, of course, I was not alive during the Roman Empire, but people from outside of the United States flooding in massive numbers. And then we're getting a president who wants to grant them amnesty. And that only goes in one direction. What's fascinating is Social Security is going to be insolvent in about 7 years, or it's going to begin to destabilize in about 7. And then in about 13, they say it will be done. Unless something dramatic happens. They always try and find some way to squeeze more blood from the turnip. The idea here, possibly, is that they're trying to bring as many people as possible to sustain the tax base required. Because people aren't having kids, there's going to be a huge problem. There's not enough people in the younger generation to sustain the older generation. And the next generation may actually be smaller than the one before it. That means there's going to be more old people with more requirements and young people who can't pay the bill. You bring in 5, 10 million, 20, 30, because if they're doing 1.5 million per year, they're trying to maintain that tax base, hoping they can tax these people, make enough money to sustain the system. You are going to end up with, very similarly to what happened in the Roman Empire, with the mass citizenship of all these non-citizens, and then your country just rips apart, split in half, and then fights each other.
And you can already see this starting to happen in other Western countries. Canada just announced that they're going to, Harrison Faulkner on Twitter does a good job covering this. They announced, so the background is that Canada said, our goal is to bring in 500,000 new immigrants every year through 2026, which is crazy. That means in 3 years, they want to bring in 1.5 million new people. this doesn't account for any illegal immigration in Canada. And one of the ways that they're opening permanent residency is by saying, well, we need people to work in our caregiver sector, right? We need people to take care of people who are homebound or whatever. And so we will, if you can, they lowered their language standard to say, if you can reach this base level, decreasing it, making it easier, and you can say that you already have a job here, you can prove that in some way, you and everyone in your family can come here and become permanent residents. This is crazy to me. Rather than pouring resources back into Canadian people, rather than encouraging them to join this sector that needs support, rather than encouraging them to have families, they're like, we're going to solve all of our problems by bringing in new people. It's like saying that it just doesn't matter who lives there. It's like saying it doesn't have a unique culture. It's like saying you guys are all replaceable to us. I can't imagine what being a voter in Canada is like.
Yeah, and you go look at serious reforms for Social Security. The last serious one was 2005. Bush had just won re-election, and he figured this was a legacy project, and he threw out a lot of these statistics, said Social Security is going to go insolvent, population demographics are changing, et cetera, et cetera. He was absolutely crucified. It crushed him in the 2006 midterms. They lost the Senate. They lost the House. And all he did was, he wasn't trying to abolish it. All he said was, young people starting this year should be able to opt out and say, I will put my money. And I once was talking to Dana Perino, who was Bush's press secretary, and she said, and I want to find an economist to do this. She said, I wonder if you could go back and if that had been implemented, take X amount of dollars and invest it in 2007 and compare that to what Social Security does now. And just look at the difference. If I were able to keep my money and invest it starting 2007, imagine the price difference.
Imagine if they invested in 2010 in Bitcoin.
Yeah. In anything.
And they'd fund Social Security forever. Shout out to El Salvador. They figured it out.
Imagine if you just treated your citizens with enough integrity to say, I will opt out of the Social Security system. And I recognize that when I turn 75, if I have made terrible investments and I am broke, that's on me. But they'll never allow you to opt out of the system because it opts out of big government, and Social Security is an enormous slush fund of money that government likes to play with.
What you got to understand is the way our politicians view this country. They do not view the United States as a body of people with shared moral values and a national border. They view this as their company with employees, and they don't care what their employees think. They need more employees because they don't have enough to milk the labor from. So the likes of the establishment uniparty, they're not thinking about cultural traditions, moral values, the 4th of July and Christmas morning. They're thinking, we need 10,000 more employees to maintain this machine because I want to get my paycheck stripped. I want to be able to insider trade and buy stuff. That's how they view everything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And we're watching late stage empire as a result, and it's tragic.
Yeah, literally an empire. It's the British Empire, the Emperor. I'm going to call Charles the Emperor from now on. He's the King of Canada, the King of Australia, the King of New Zealand, and the King of England. He owns all those titles. He's the Emperor. And the Empire looks like it's gearing up.
But it's not the United States.
Well, the U.S. and the Brits got into some business cahoots in 1941 when they set up the precursor to the Five Eyes Spy Club. The U.S. is deeply entrenched with the Empire, and they're using the U.S. as like a spearhead. Looks like they're letting people in to get a bunch of fighters ready for the next imperial war, and they're just going to draft these dudes and send them off and then give them citizenship if they survive.
This is the Democrat establishment uniparty path versus the MAGA populist path, and we've talked about it. It seems like Hillary Clinton represents, and I mean like her ilk, the war machine. They have no regard for the American people. The United States is a vassal state of the international interests, and the American people just happen to have the benefit of the U.S. dollar backing their economy. And the idea is to put as many troops all over the place. I mean, it's really fascinating. The world really was set up in this liberal economic order very much like the Hunger Games, right? And so the United States is basically like District 1 or 2. So for those that aren't familiar, the general idea is the lesser district where the main character is from, it's like coal mining Appalachia. And then the first district is military and police. I think actually it might have been the third. And then like first and second were like elite engineering and stuff. I could be wrong. But the higher brackets of the districts protected the capital. And then the people who lived in the capital were the global elites who got to do whatever they want. That's what the United States is. We are the military policing arm of the world. The American people are the cannon fodder for this machine to send overseas to enforce the petrodollar and the liberal economic order. And Donald Trump wasn't supposed to win because he represents an actual country. He actually is like, I like America and the American flag and apple pie and baseball and all these other things. And he is, in many ways, an old, lewd, and lascivious man who represents the worst of American culture as well as the best of it, or at least the only one who's actually representing it at all. The MAGA path with Trump is, we like America. We're going to secure its borders. We're going to bring jobs back. We're going to get rid of these disgusting international trade agreements. We're going to bring our troops home. We're going to focus on our nation. We're a nation built here in this country. And Joe Biden, Obama, Clinton, they represent, you are a vassal state. Shut your mouths. Your children are our cannon fodder. And we're going to go send them to Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and other countries to serve. We're going to send them to Germany and Japan and South Korea, and they will work as police for the world. And that's all that you have. That's the only reason you matter. We get to live in luxury because of it, better than most people. If Trump comes in, he changes all of that, or at least begins to.
And then, so that's the liberal economic order is American military police. And most people I know are like done with it. They're like, we don't want to be world's police. All the libertarians I know are like, no, screw this. So they want to make a new world order where the Americans aren't the military police. But that kind of scares me because what's that world order going to look like? Technically, we should have the biggest bargaining chip as the United States. We should be like, it's going to look like this. But instead, we've floundered for 20 years, kicked sand in our own eyes, and now they're like, we're just going to make a corporatocracy that's based on technocratic values and ideals. Don't say the wrong words. But it should be that we are establishing American constitutionalism globally right now. This new world order needs it, in my opinion. This country is the best thing. I've lived in other countries, but this free speech thing is like just so important for innovation.
And it is the establishment powers of the United States trying to get rid of that because they don't like it. They want U.S. military running bases in foreign countries, telling everyone else to shut up and do as you're told. The Constitution is in the way.
So if they keep the military bases but just transform them into an imperial military instead of an American military, then they don't have to get rid of the bases, but they've got their imperial order.
You know, we talked about this because obviously civil war is on the mind of a lot of people. And people have tried to dance around the issue by saying, no, peaceful national divorce, which is impossible because like Las Vegas can't exist in a state. Like you need national trade. So we were talking about what would happen in a civil war. And one of the ideas is if the establishment uniparty basically just breaks away and becomes an international military body. The military-industrial complex already basically is. Like, does anyone in this country actually want to send our troops to Syria or any of these places? Certainly there are some people, but the overwhelming majority of Americans, and you can see it in the populist left and right, as crazy as the populist leftists may be, the one thing we all agree on is, why are we at war in all of these places? The one thing we really agree on is, why are we funding Israel? Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.